What is up, everybody? I'm gonna tell you. Let's put this down here. All right, there we go. What's up? Welcome back to yet another live stream. This is episode or week number 65 of the Camera Junkie live stream. Thank you for stopping by and spending your time here with me. If it's your first time, my name's Lewis, also known as MrCameraJunkie, where I remind you to upgrade your skills before your gear. And that is gonna rumble right into our topic for today, which is what's in my camera bag? What gear am I actually using? And this is basically what I use for photography, for portrait photo shoots, or anything of that matter. Not so much for video, but that's why I'm kind of documenting this as well, because my gear setup will be changing soon, as I'm going to be throwing a little bit more into the videography side, and I'm going to be building out kind of like a cine rig. And if you like, you can follow along on that journey as I take step by step at what parts I'm going to be adding to my kit for videography as well as photography. So with that being said, thank you for hanging out. I am just a couple of minutes behind on today's live stream because I did the erroneous thing the first time ever, that I actually clicked live on Ecamm and I forgot to switch it to today's live stream. So there is a unlisted live stream of me for like a minute directly onto my YouTube, because that's the way that it was set up before. So I'm like thinking that I'm actually going live when I actually didn't click on today's live, session. So I quickly canceled that one out, jumped back into this one, went live, and here we are. So there we go. I just started laughing. I just find that hilarious. I'm over here like seeing no movement. I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. Well, let's see exactly what's going on, and making sure that everything's, working the way it should. And at the end of the day, I realized that I was doing a private unlisted live stream to my channel. So, well, with that being said, let me see who's here real quick. We got Dr. Charlez Richard in the house saying hello. Scott Rogers as well. The Paul Duncan, thank you for stopping by as always. Scott saying, I wonder what I have in my bag. With a little beer emoji. Or is it cupcakes, he says. Neither, it's camera gear. Yeah, you got it right the third time. There we go. Paul says dirty laundry. Oh, so you got jokes. All right, I see how it is. Randall saying hello to everyone. All right, so is Paul. You know what, Randall, it's been a while I haven't had a large frappe mocha. I should go stop by. I've been doing a lot of coffee here at the house, and I haven't stopped by just because every time that I've been by McDonald's as of late, I kind of see how the drive-through line is. If it's like out of control, I'm not even gonna waste my time. So that's how it's been. Good for McDonald's, right? Bad for me with frappe mochas. And everybody's saying hello to each other. Randall saying that he loves the latest video from Charles. Mario is here as well saying hello. Paul says, Lewis, did you stuff Doc in that bag?
Uh-oh. I done did something stupid.
That was the comment that was supposed to come up there. Nano is here. What's up, Luis? He's saying hello, folks. John is hanging out as well, saying hello to me and the crew. Melanie saying hello. And Kevin Cox. All right. So, yes, Kevin says, did everyone remember to hit that like button? And if you haven't, make sure that you... Ooh, that sounded horrible. What happened there? That sounded hideous. Confirm with me on my end. That sound effect sounded horrible. Oh. Let's try it one more time. Okay, there we go. Much better. So if you haven't already, make sure you that like button. That's the way that it was supposed to sound. I think I was right. Something happened there. It was busting out the cobwebs. I haven't used the iPad all week. It was rusty. I'm also trying something else new. I am not actually pumping out the music that I have here from my audio setup. I'm actually using Ecamm as the difference. So I've put all of the music onto Ecamm itself, because this way I have isolated tracks, meaning if I want to repurpose these live streams and cut out a little chunk of it, I won't have the music mix in it. So that way I would be able to remix music over it, because I will have a clean separate track. Richard's here as well. How you doing, Mr. Sarkeesian? It says stutter pow sound. Yeah, but it sounds much better now from what I'm hearing, so it should be good. And you see, that's the whole thing about audio. You know, just to bring it up real quick, I hear everything that goes out to you. So instead of waiting to get a response from somebody telling me that, you know, it's bad or so on and so forth, Paul just said that we got a buzz. Do I sound like a buzz right now or much better? Okay, he's saying much better. Okay, cool. All right, well, just make sure I'll stay on top of that. Well, first thing that I'm going to say is that when it comes to photography, part of my kit is my camera, right? And this is the one thing that is in my bag, but really is never inside of my bag. It's always in my hand and usually propped with a lens. So I'm going to go over my camera itself and the gear that I have in my camera bag that I use when I make photos and when I actually do photo shoots. Well, right now in 2022, I am still using the Sony a7R II. It has the same 42.2 megapixel sensor as the a7R III. The difference is that this one pretty much uses the smaller NPF W50, right? NPF W50 batteries. I'm saying it right, it just sounds weird. Paul, I know you got that, so I appreciate you, sir. All right. So using these small batteries on this big full frame 42 megapixel sensor, it tends to drain pretty fast if you leave the camera to the stock options, because Sony, because it has so many features, it kind of tends to turn all of them on to try to make it as easy as possible for you. But me being a manual shooter, I tend to turn a lot of those things off and just turn on the things that I use as I go. I think it's a much better way of learning your camera, because there's still levels to like this camera that I still haven't uncovered because of it. Now the Sony a7R II, when I picked it up, I got a really good deal. I got it with like 2 or 3 lenses, and I ended up selling those lenses because I already owned them. I kept one of them because it really surprised me, and I was like, oh, this lens is a lot better than what I thought. That happens to be the Zeiss 24-70, which I had plans to sell, but regardless, I ended up paying roughly like $1,000 for this camera body as is, and I had it for like 2 years. Right now this camera still sells used on the market this is words, Lewis. This is without like the more recent price increase on most cameras, running for like around $1,200 to $1,300 used. So an amazing deal. Has steady shot inside. meaning it has the internal IBIS system, and it was the first one in the Sony lineup to carry the backside illuminated sensor, meaning it has very good low light capability. This camera still till today does pretty much everything that I need to do. Actually, yeah, I use the A6100s here because they are lighter and smaller, but when it comes to, okay, let's stay on, buddy. That this camera does everything that I needed to do. When it comes to video, it shoots 4K 60. It does 120 frames per second in high definition 1080. It does go into the crop mode when it goes into 4K, so it goes into the Super 35, which is fine because I end up using the majority of my APS-C lenses that I have here, or get like a little extra boost because it makes my 55mm basically a 85mm, which is a good focal length to get B-roll in the way that I shoot my videos as well. So there we go. Okay, Ecamm, work with me, buddy. I think it's me. I've been making all these changes as of late, so like I said, even to the point where I started the live stream on an unlisted one, but I digress. So, camera body as of right now, and still, I think this is not part of the kit that I'm going to upgrade. I think I'm going to start utilizing this camera more for the video side as well. I'm going to kit this body out and work it, because if it's one fatal flaw that people can't get around is the small battery, I am going to be bypassing that completely with the Cinema Rig kit, using a V-mount battery, which is going to have more than enough juice for me to utilize the camera and power all the accessories that I'm going to be utilizing with it. That's the plan, and that's where I'm going to be moving forward. This way I'm going to continue and now let you know the lenses that I use for photography with this camera, because when it comes to photography, this camera body itself still has nothing, it's no slouch. It has the same eye autofocus that is famous for Sony to have in video, but that's like one of its downgrades. It has face tracking in video, but it doesn't have the eye autofocus in video. That's the newer firmwares and the newer cameras. Like my A6100 doesn't have the eye autofocus in video. It has face autofocus, which is so good that it's just a, you know, I can say is just as good. I don't really notice a difference whenever I utilize the face tracking on my A6100 compared to eye tracking, but I haven't really had a camera that has that for video so that I could compare it for myself. But when it comes to photography and portraits, this has the same type of autofocus where it just locks on, and then right there, boom, you have a great photo. So let me go ahead and show you the actual bag that I use, right? I carry this small bag. This is the Low Pro flip side, right? Flip side 200. The reason why I like this bag, on top of its small, like, you know, like footprint and easy to carry, it houses all of the things that I need, okay? And as well, it opens from the back. Let's see. Right here, as we can see, the back side, or the flip side, has to do with that it opens from the back side. Oh, that's the pop filter. I was so far away from the microphone, I don't even know if you heard that. So the big thing about this camera bag is that it actually opens from the back side. And the first thing that I'm greeted with in my camera bag is one of my latest additions to it. And I want to give a shout out to Peter Gregg because I'm using his better bounce cards, and I've really taken a liking to his system. I'm using that right now, and what it's replacing, I'm going to show you. You might have seen kits like this rolling around, like the Rogue Flash Bender. Hey, I have them. Wow, I am burning up. But we'll continue. The Rogue Flash Bender. This, even though it works well and has great functionality for flash photography, it is very cumbersome. It is something that is not really easy to carry, and that's from my own personal experience. I even got the upgraded kit of it, which is supposed to be the softbox, as you can see here, the large softbox, which is supposed to grab the light and instead of just splashing it everywhere, but actually capture it and then soften it as it shoots forward. There are a lot of photographers who like this system. I am not one of them. Like, I've used them when it's necessary, and I would tell you in a little bit when I go into the accessories of how I would use these and how I am now using the better bounce cards. Oh, and I wasn't meaning to do it, but you know what? Let's roll with it. That brings me up to this segment called Cities Golf, which is channels that I think you should go and watch. And today, for Cities Golf, I'm going to be bringing up the person that I was just speaking of, which is Senor Peter Gregg. If you haven't had the luxury of finding this channel on your own, let me be the one to introduce you Peter Gregg. He's a great photographer in the Miami area, retired now, but now he still shares his knowledge with us about cameras and photography on a weekly basis through a couple of his channels. One of them being this one, Peter Gregg, and the other one being Peter Gregg Live, where he hosts a Friday live stream where I participate, and I'm like super grateful for him taking the time and spending it with us. I've been also fortunate to, be living in the Miami area and have been able to create a friendship with Peter Gregg. So on top of it being a personal thing of my own, he does have an amazing channel, which is how I found him before we were ever in communication. So it's just been an amazing friendship that has blossomed, but he also has a great channel, as you can see. A lot of great videos where he's talking about the new GH6 and all the camera gear. If you dig a little deeper, you could also find other channels of his where he actually does cooking and called Peter Gregg's Kitchen. But if you're part of the Discord, you'll be able to find his channel link in the same channel in Discord under Cities Golf, which is channels I think you should go and watch. So there we go, and bringing it back full circle to his better bounce card, which is the first thing that I have now sitting on top of all of my lenses. How I use that with the flash, I'll get to it in a second, but that has hands down replaced this, where I have them in boxes. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. I don't feel like selling this. I feel like I might just give it to someone. We'll see what ends up happening, but I'm not really using that right now unless I find another use for it. When it comes to that, the first thing in my camera bag is exactly that. My speed light. Oh, let me go back to the main shot. Excuse me. Okay. Speed light. So a speed light is a flash that you can put on top of your camera, the better bounce card is basically replacing this little plastic piece that comes with most of the speed lights. This is designed to take the flash, redirect it, hit the bounce card, and then amplify the light white and softer towards your subject when it comes to portraits or anything like that. What Mr. Peter Gregg has created is a bounce card which attaches basically via Velcro to your flash card and becomes a bounce card. This is the same thing that the Rogue Flash Bender does as well. The difference is the other ones are, like I said, much bigger, very cumbersome, and this being made of foam is extremely lightweight and like very like forgiving when it comes to bumps and hitting anything. And the fact that it just becomes like an actual part of your flash. And this is the medium size. My favorite has actually been the small one, which is much bigger than what you would get from the flash itself. But a flash is something that's vital to my photography, especially when it comes to portraits. One of the accessories that I use to attach or utilize this flash to its like best or to its max capacity is this Andor wireless transmitter and receiver kit. Oh, a second here. I'm just gonna set it up. So what I do here is, as you can see, I just put the transmitter, if it'll focus, on top of the camera there. So now that when naturally I would click the shutter, it would send that signal through this transmitter to this receiver. Now this receiver, I have it mounted here on this adapter, which allows me to put it on an umbrella, mount a softbox to it, put it on a tripod, do a bunch of things. But effectively what it does is that it transmits the trigger signal from the flash here head to this head and allows me to attach this flash to it. And now I can position this flash with the better bounce card off left, off right of the subject while I'm taking their portraits, maybe even flash it towards the ceiling, creating an even bigger softbox, but allowing me to easily move around my subject as I'm taking portraits and still getting the best light as I'm quickly changing angles and getting a bunch of different views and different looks out of the same photo shoot. Okay, so Harry's saying that the music is a little loud. We'll bring it down. Thank you for that, Harry. All right. All right, and Charles said the same thing. Thank you, guys. Okay. Well, I continue. So this is pretty much what my setup will look like. If I am outdoors, I probably won't put an umbrella because that tends to try to knock these things down. If you are going to use a tripod, make sure that you bring a sandbag with you, because this is going to change the game when it comes to photography, especially portrait photography. So that's the first thing in the first set that you're going to find in my camera bag, because lighting is so important that it should be the first thing that you think about when you go to do photography. So I've mentioned my camera and my speed light, and now we'll go into my lenses, which is an assortment of different lenses. Now, when it comes to portraits, hands down, I'm going to be talking about two lenses here, which is my workhorses. In all sincerity, I have to be real. I have been using the 85mm f1.8 from Sony as my main portrait workhorse. So this guy, when it comes to doing work, I've just been throwing this on my camera, and as of late, I haven't really gone to anything else in the back. This has been able to do everything and then some, including video, and the images are amazing that pretty much right now, like all of my portfolio shots that I would be using for my up and coming website are products of this lens and this combination. So my 85mm f1.8, that is probably the workhorse with this setup right now, and that's being real. Now, if I were to change the lens, it would be to pretty much my favorite lens, but because it's a 55mm, I don't use it as much for portraits. But if I am rocking around with the APS-C lineup, I will be using my Zeiss 55mm f1.8. Oh, let's see if we're here long enough. No. So this is pretty much my favorite lens. Every time that I use it, I get amazing results. But I'm also going to be real with you, because I had this conversation just earlier this week with Keith Pelzer, which is perception, right? When you're charging people for photography, there's a certain perception that they want to have. And whenever I use my 85mm, the element on the front of that lens is so big that it's a bit intimidating. And after I use it and I've calmed the subject down, the client, the model person down, and that they're now comfortable in front of the lens, they kind of don't question it. But whenever I've used my 55mm, even though it gets amazing results, because it's so small, because it's so compact, I end up having people ask me about the gear that I'm using because it seems a bit lackluster. You know, it seems like, oh, like, is that camera gonna get me or get the photographer the results that the client wants? And I've never had an issue with the final results of my Zeiss 55mm, but because it being so small, ends up just happens to be that I end up gravitating more towards the 85mm because of the compression and the great results. But for my own personal, I think I would end up using this Zeiss 55 all the time. Alright. So now we've gone through the 85 and my 55, and those are my prime lenses. Now, I had mentioned to you before, a lens that I purchased to sell, but that I ended up keeping, was the Zeiss 24-70. Now this is a zoom, it's an f4, but it's become my favorite video lens. Excuse me. When it comes to shooting video, I've been using it with this setup, and it has the optical steady shot in it, so it's optically stabilized, plus the steady shot built inside to the camera, so having them together is giving me extremely stable footage. I've been fortunate enough to just open up my blinds here and flood the room with sunlight and daylight from Florida, that it allows me to do 120 frames at f4 and still have enough light to get a nice clean image. So that combination has been just the best for me. Photos is great as well, especially because f4 is sufficient when it comes to photography. And this is my first of 2 zoom lenses. This is the one that I use the most, and now the last lens that I actually have used the least, because it's heavy, man. So that, you know, for those of you who don't think about it, it's like, this is a great lens, but it's a big boy. So this is my 24-240 variable aperture. This is a 3.5 to 6.3, and a 6.3 at 240 millimeters is still like Boca Town. So I can't emphasize that enough. This thing is like an all-in-one lens. Take a look at this thing. This thing is huge and it's heavy. It has a lot of glass, a lot of elements that are moving in there. as you're pushing in and out. That thing is beast mode, and it's also optically stabilized, so it also has motors to keep the image steady. Also great for video, but this thing is heavy. This thing is like pounds. So even though it's a great lens and I have it in my bag, in all sincerity, this is the least used lens because of its weight. Alright, now I'm gonna go quickly to my side pocket. What I have in my side pocket here is an intervalometer. So this is basically just a trigger for the camera. I also have a wireless one, which would probably be more practical, but that's for my A6100. In my full frame, how I don't have it, I just throw this one in the bag whenever I need to do maybe like an astro type of photography, and that I just want to not be clicking the shutter and jostling the camera itself on the tripod. I'm able to just click and take the shots that way. Also good for self-portraits, so that you can just pose yourself and with a hand offset be able to just snap the picture and still use autofocus. Excuse me. Okay. Something that's essential for photographers and Puerto Ricans alike. Crazy glue. You gotta have crazy glue. This is something that's like essential to Puerto Ricans. So this is something that just lives in my bag. A brand new bottle of crazy glue, just in case, because you never know. Might not even have anything to do with photography, but you gotta have the crazy glue. And then I have an assortment of some brushes. As you can see, they're brand new, still in the plastic, haven't really been used. I've used these brushes off of the pens. Those have been used more than anything. And that's what I have in my pocket here. And then on the other side, oh, I lost my zipper. Okay, here we go. The other side is another piece of, or another accessory, which I find is vital. Hey, buddy. As you can hear Aiden hanging out. Okay. Here we are. The Expo disc. Let's see if we can get that. The Expo disc. This thing, since I've gotten it, has just is paid for itself numerous times. Now, I think they run like $40-50. But for photography, I highly recommend this piece of kit. Whenever I go to shoot photos, this is hanging around my neck. And especially with this camera here, it has the ability to change the auto white balance at a push of a button. So I am able to set, and I actually have a custom button set there. Aiden is having a blast over here, but okay. As a father, I'm like just trying to make sure that he's okay and just checking in on him. He seems to be fine, but okay. I'll get back to it. Okay. This basically is a white card or a gray card in your hand. I am able to take this and put it in front of any lens and automatically get the correct white balance for the photo shoot, which allows the colors to stay correct, to stay on point, and actually improve all of the post-processing that is necessary when it comes to photography. This thing is so ideal. What you do is that the way you utilize it correctly is that you put it at the front of your lens and you set your camera to capture the white balance. as this is the white card that you're putting in front of it, you need to illuminate it to the correct light source. So you would actually stand where your subject would be standing, not where you're going to take the photo, but where you're going to be actually receiving the light or bouncing the light off of the subject. So let's say you were shooting a portrait of someone, you would stand where that person would be, and you would aim this light and capture that as your white balance as you're aiming towards the sun or the said light source. So if you are using flash photography and you want to utilize this as well, because you're using gels or anything in front of it and you're not just using the standard flash light but just the strobe effect, then you would actually capture that in camera directly from the said light with the gel, get the correct white balance, and then proceed from there. This thing saves so much time when it comes to natural light photography, because the light is constantly changing. So to make sure that you're constantly on your white balance correctly, this thing is just like, it's like lock and load. It's just like boom 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 boom. And if you change a location, it is that simple to change your white balance, just to make sure that you keep everything on point. So hands down, the Espo, this is something that I use for all of my portrait photography, and I highly recommend it. Oh man. And I think that's it. The only other thing is that depending on the photo shoot that I'm going to be doing will really depend if I carry something else, which is more of like an artistic lens. And that's where I haven't used them as much, but I am a big fan of my vintage lenses, which this is not now this is not part of my camera bag. This is where I am going to be taking my new video centric how I would say endeavor with my camera here, is all of my vintage lenses. So I have like my Nikkor 50mm f1.4. I have like Asahi lenses. This is a 28mm f2.8. This is my Helios 58 f2. This one is my Quantaray, and then like a secret weapon that I have for portrait photography is this bad boy right here. This is my 135 to 400mm Quantaray Canon lens that I have adapted via Metabones adapter. So we can see there. And this thing is even heavier than my, 24 to 1, my 24 to 240. Definitely heavier. But as you can see, it has this little like tripod mount. So it sits on the tripod, sits there. I get amazing photos. I put it on my camera today, and sadly, the autofocus is not working at all. Even though it was extremely slow, it would work. Now the motors seem like they're getting no torque on the ring. But I use this lens in manual to be much faster all the time anyway, so that really doesn't bother me that much. And because it's a photography first lens before video, the focus throw is very short, so I am able to just utilize the entire focus range with my thumb. And basically that's how I utilize it. Handle, where I'm able to just rock my thumb side to side here. Oh, let me see if I can show. There. Like such, to do the focusing. And I'm still able to utilize it, as my shirt says, glass before ass, because optics are always more important than the camera body. You can go into like stills photography with film, and that's such a slow process. It's only the new technology that allows the hustle and bustle when it comes to photography and running, gunning, and having everything so fast. But if you are able to slow things down, you can really take advantage of old glass that's going to give you a lot of unique looks. Another channel that I follow called I'm running a blank on it. I'm not even gonna try to, but he's also into vintage lenses as well. He's doing a lot of housing for cinema, which is exactly kind of what I'm thinking about these lenses. I'm thinking I might invest in a 3D printer just because of having the ability to create focus rings for these lenses natively and allowing me to utilize them while not really like taking the functionality of them away from being photography lenses still. So it's something that I have planned, but I have plenty of lenses because I still have cameras up on that shelf up there that are still part of my vintage lens collection. I still have some more over here, so I really want to put them to use. Let me know if you guys are interested in seeing a vintage lens live stream, because it's something that I probably could do. It won't have autofocus, but I could definitely change a couple of these lenses out for the systems that I have here to give it like a unique look. But you guys let me know if that's something that interests you. Now I'm gonna go ahead and check the chat. I've spoken enough about what's in my camera bag, and now to check out everyone here. All right, let's see what we left it here. Okay, so we were here when we were saying hit the thumbs up. If you're still here or you weren't here before and you haven't hit the like button, please do so. It's free and it goes a long way. It's really appreciated. Like I mentioned today in Doc Rock's live stream, hitting the thumbs up is like just wiping your feet when you're walking into somebody's house, right? It's just courtesy. So wipe your feet and hit the thumbs up button on your way in. Okay, so Charles saying that he feels like Mr. Clean. I think that's what it was. He says, hi, Louis. I see a little more gray hair, or is it the new light? It's both, man. I see a lot more gray hair, but the lighting situation has gotten better. Paul says they make the rounds up, but they just created a new user. I know you got this, Paul. Thank you. I appreciate you, sir. Okay, so we have a conversation. Okay. So John, we were talking about Peter. He says, yeah, he has a great Christmas room. I was able to go to the Christmas room. I was physically in the Christmas room. That's something that's I could die now, right? Like I said, like I could die peacefully. It's one of those bucket list things. It's super cool. Like I remember my first time going there, I was like, I can't believe that this is even happening. So it's super cool. Oh, that's right. Charles says, don't forget to mention Peter's huge cookies. Yes, because that's something. Peter Greg has a channel that's where he cooks, Peter Greg's Kitchen. But he also makes these huge, enormous walnut chocolate chip cookies. They are phenomenal. They are like it's an experience having one. You know what? Give me 1 second because I have one in the fridge and I'm going to bring it out to show you. All right. Focus. Take a look at this thing. Can you see that? This is like, imagine a small softball or a bigger baseball cut in half, and it's filled with chocolate chips and walnuts. Amazing cookies, and thanks Charles for reminding me. But yes, and this is when he was letting me know that the music was too loud. You see, I appreciate for you guys letting me know. This is me using Ecamm instead of my normal thing, so everything that I'm hearing through here is the audio that I have coming out. Still working out the levels with Ecamm. The reason why I'm trying this out now, and to mention it again, is because the recording that I'm getting now from Ecamm is gonna have the music separate and the audio separate, allowing me to now, if I wanted to just re-render this in post and lower that section of the music, I can do it in edit in post. Not directly through the YouTube, because that's already recorded what's out. But if I want to clip something out and it was something important while the music was loud, I still have the ability to take that out separately and have the file with no music at all, allowing me to actually cut and edit better with not having the music sound janky. But we'll see how it works out. Tom is here saying hello. Paul is saying your question should look like this, otherwise it's just a comment. Saying hi to Tom. Hassan is here. Hey Hassan, nice to see you here. If you're still here, let me know in chat if you've received your package yet, or like what's going on, because last I heard that it was shipped out, but I don't know if you've gotten it yet. If you haven't, let me know so that I can follow up on it. And Gretchen is here as well. Says, good to see you. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it, guys. I gotta tell you the truth. This has been a very hectic week. Oh, a little bit of information to let you guys know. I spoke to Tom and I did let him know, a couple of people. I was looking at the budget and the situation, and it's not in the cards for me to make it to social media marketing world next week or so. I was really looking at all options of trying to get over there. Airfare was like over $3,000 for me and Aiden. I even thought of renting a RV, and that was also over $3,000 to rent that out. And then I was thinking, and if I were to rent out the vehicle, it's not for like a week, because I need like a week time of travel to get over to San Diego, a week to get back, and then the week of to be there. So I would basically be renting the vehicle for like 21 days. Then I have to like figure out like the fuel, the food for all of that time. So many logistical things, and it was just it just crept up way too fast, and I wasn't able to put everything together. So it's unfortunate for me. I really wanted to go to the social media marketing world. There's a lot of people, including Tom, that I wanted to go meet for the first time in the meet space, how Doc says in real life, IRL. But it's gonna have to happen on another, in another episode, in another event at another time. But I'll still be looking forward to that. I am going to be working on a lot of things, including, I believe I mentioned to you guys, like my book. I'm putting together a book. This is, when you first think about writing a book, you think it's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna write it. You know what? I don't even have to write it. I'm gonna dictate it. And there's a lot more planning that goes into it than you could ever really think of, just like everything else. Everything's a new endeavor, but I'm excited to take on the challenge. I was talking to Doc about it, to say that it's not going to be a very long book. It's not going to be too long when it comes to like the basics of photography. And he asked me, he's like, why isn't it going to be too long? I'm like, because it's only my first book. Like, I've never written a book before, so why am I gonna take too long to produce something when I've never done it before, and I don't know if I'm doing it right or what I would want to change. And if it takes me longer to produce anything, it's gonna take even longer for me to recognize those differences or the skills that I need to learn to actually get to where I want to. So that's basically it. But I'm excited because this is something that, once done, is going to be something that I will have completed, and that I will forever be able to say that I am an author, right? I am an author. If I win any prizes, I would be a prize-winning author, right? It's just crazy to even think of things like that, because I kind of don't. But I also have to be cognizant of those things being something that's a very big possibility, because a lot of doors have opened themselves up to me doing this, which is something that I love to do. And as always, I appreciate every single one of you for hanging out here and spending your most precious time, your most prized possession, which is your time, here with me. And I really do value that. Doc Rock was also mentioning that he appreciates people's time, and I really do. No matter what it is, just recognize that people don't have to do anything, and that when they do, be grateful for it, because it's always to your benefit to be grateful. So with that being said, guys, I'm grateful for all of you. Thank you again for hanging out. I hope you have a great week. I'm going to be working hard this week on all the things. I'm trying to bust out another video. I will be here as always next Saturday, 11 p.m. as always. And have a great week. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you all in the next live stream. Take care, guys.